talking about where does that discrimination stem from?
Well, okay, you could say, I mean, discrimination, the caste discrimination has been going on for so long. But it's basically, it's not the religion, it's the person's mindset.
So you think it's a cultural disease as opposed to a religious?
Yes, I think it's more of a cultural a disease than a religion. It's a way of, you know, it's only few minority people that have that kind of a thinking, you know, the extreme people that have a thinking of discrimination.
Well, if it was actually just a minority group that was doing the discrimination, would it be an issue enough for organizations like Caste Watch UK to even exist? So it's, I'm not sure if I agree that it's just a minority that's spreading this discrimination.
No, I don't think it's a minority. To be honest with you, I'm also a member of Caste Watch UK, and I've recently been a member of Caste Watch UK. They've held 4 conferences so far, and to be honest with you, if you go back, if you look at the website Caste Watch UK, you'll see that it's quite widespread and it's not a small minority. And I was myself quite actually amazed to see how Caste Watch is spread in UK.
Sure. Samuel, now Eric mentioned that you'd explain the aims of Indian Christian Concern. What are your aims?
First, I would like to take you back a little bit further, where we started from. Indian Christian Concern established in 1999 due to it was a persecution going on that time in the same state as Orissa as they done it last year. There was a missionary called Graham Strain. He was killed with his 2 children. That's where we started.
Based on what? Because he was Christian?
Yes, because he was Christian. As you were just talking about minorities, well, I established 65% of Christians are believed to be Dalit. Christian account is only 2.3% out of 1.1 billion. So we are in minority. That's why we are oppressed.
Well, I do just have to say before we go further that we've been talking about caste and where it originated from, and we've been talking about Hinduism. And although we did mention that it is in the Hindu text that the caste does exist in the Hindu text,
it is,
but we have to agree on the fact that it's a cultural thing, and the issue of caste discrimination exists in other religions, in Sikhism, in Islam. People do use caste to decide who they're going to associate with and who they're going to settle down with.
Can I just come back on that point? Yes, you know, you're right. I was just recently reading an article from the Hindu Council UK, which, you know, points out that they're putting all the blame on Christianity. I'd just like to bring in the fact and just explain that Christianity now or ever enforced a caste. They have never practiced and they have never enforced a caste system. Matter of fact, if you go back, you know, 2,000 years ago and look into the Bible, you see that Jesus Christ showed that mankind is equal and showed love towards each other. You only have to look at the famous the 10 Commandments, and it says, "Love thy neighbor as yourself." So there's been a point when Jesus Christ have sat down with his disciples and washed their feet, purely to show that all mankind, we all are equal. So it has never promoted caste system.
Right. Did you want to make a point?
My name is Manpreet Darach, and I just wanted to say, yeah, it's like Sanyya said, it is also prevalent within Sikhism. It's also prevalent within Islam. With conversations that I've had with Muslim friends, they've said that, you know, I wasn't even aware that caste system existed in Islam as well, but I know it does exist in Sikhism. So no, it's not just Hinduism that is talking about caste. And you know, my experience is that I was taught Sikhism at A level, and I was taught that you know, Hinduism is structured in such a way that only the top 2 castes can achieve spiritual liberation. But we was also talking about earlier on about legislation, and how legislation will deter people to you know, think about caste and say, you know, caste is wrong in our society. And I think that's very, very important. I mean, you know, if we live in a society where something is illegal, for example, caste discrimination is illegal, then, you know, it's going to encourage other people to think, you know, I better think twice about me saying something about you on the basis of your caste. So I think legislation is possibly...
Do you think we're moving forward, though? This generation,
I personally think it needs to be a culture change, because, you know, it can be legislation and it can be whatever. And, you know, like Sarah said, that just because it's law doesn't necessarily mean the culture is going to change.
Well, you guys are at uni, right? Do
Yeah.
you see
I
caste
do.
discrimination?
I can honestly say that yes, I have seen caste discrimination. I've seen people say we are this, we are that, and I think a lot of it is down to culture. You know, Bhangra music. They talk a lot about caste in Bhangra music, and when we put something into legislation, are we going to say Bhangra music that talks about
can't say
certain
that.
caste is going to be inciting caste discrimination? Well, my personal opinion is it does incite caste discrimination,
course it does.
and it does, you know, assert superiority of certain castes over certain castes. So I think, you know, it needs to be a culture change, but legislation is the
Well,
right way.
just moving away from that on a personal level, would you consider marrying somebody out of caste, and how would your parents feel about that?
I'm quite lucky that, I mean, I am Pathan, but when I spoke to my parents, they'd prefer me to marry someone within my caste, but they've said as long as they're from a good family and you like them, or whatever, then they really don't have an issue. So I've been quite lucky in the sense that I'm not bound by my caste.
Yeah, same with me. I mean, my parents, we don't really concern ourselves with caste at all. It's more about the people and how they are. So for me,
Is
I mean,
caste ever discussed, though? Is it ever an issue?
no, I mean, just speaking from my family, my sister got married. She married someone from a different caste. My other sister got married to a guy who wasn't even Asian. So
How does the community take that? Because I think that's what concerns Asians is
Yeah.
not what we really feel
I mean,
about it, but what is somebody else going to say?
yeah, I think this is where the problem is. They need to get that mentality out of the way. They shouldn't be concerned about what people are going to say. Because if you're so concerned about what people are going to say, I mean, you can't live your life. You've got so many boundaries, so many limitations that, you know, what are you supposed to do?
Is, basically, I've spoken about because I have I've spoken about caste within my friend circles, and you know, like Ramesh was saying earlier on, that his kids have asked him, you know, what am I, what caste am I? And I've asked my dad that same question, what caste am I, what does it mean? And he said, son, it was things that we did back in, you know, your grandfathers had a certain jobs. But you know what, your grandfather didn't even have that job when he was in India, and people are using this just to say we are better than you, we are a certain way. So personally, I would marry somebody from a different caste, and my family would accept that. And I just feel it's sad that we are, like you said, placed with limitations, that we are a minority already in this country, and then we are making ourselves even a bigger minority within a minority. So I think that's wrong.
That's good. That's a very good point you have made it about the marriages, intercaste marriages. Because I was listening to the radio program yesterday, and they was mentioning the matrimonial, and they was talking about the caste.
Well, we've got to be aware and be realistic and realize that Manpreet's voice is what his opinion is the exception, not the rule.